We are all born with abundance. We all have it. We just don't know where it is. The reason why you don't want to speak negative thoughts from your own mouth is because the mouth, the tongue, has its own power of its own. The only thing that should be coming out of your mouth should be positive things about yourself. So I never say I'm broke. I never say I'm sick. Never say I can't afford that. All I say is, how can I afford that? How can I achieve this? But I never use the word I can't. I'm very big on manifestation and visualization, really seeing what the next step is. As a leader, your mind is your greatest ally. Picture your mind, have a 24-hour security guard at the front of your mind that screens everything that comes in. Nothing is too little. Everything matters. The music, the clothes, the books, everything matters. The way you walk, the way you talk, everything matters. Hey, I know you're enjoying this video. Go below, get your tickets, and I'll see you there.
Welcome back to the Rubasha Family Podcast. Now, I have a very, very special guest in the building. We have Mayaki here, the CEO of Wealthy You. Again, so many things that you do: motivational speaker, thought leader, being able to use your imagination to be able to continue with your impact and legacy upon this earth. But today, I wanted to do something a bit different. We've worked together first the other day, shadowing you and seeing what you go through in a part of your life, right? And being able to get all this game, we talked about something, and it was on the topic of leadership. And I wanted to tell you, you showed me a little bit of how you communicate with your team and, things like that on WhatsApp. That same day, not even the same day, when we were in the car, I saw what you did and I'm like, wow, I went in on my WhatsApp, sends a screenshot about, what we're doing for clients, and I was like, it worked. Like, so I'm like, okay, so that's how I can do it. Like, as a leader, you have to be able to, spark that motivation and things. And so I saw that from you, and being able to just copy that straight away, without hesitation, was important, and it worked. So I want to base this conversation on leadership. How, can people and founders lead and effectively?
First, I want to say thank you very much for inviting me to your podcast. It's quite an honor, and thanks for your time too as well. Now, in terms of being a leader, to be honest, I'm still learning myself on how to be a good leader. Mm-hmm. Most of the stuff I know today, things that I've had to learn the hard way, mm-hmm. and some of them I borrow from other good leaders that I've come across with. As I was saying in regards to leadership, leadership are things that, take it back to when I had managers and leaders that I had to report to. Part of my philosophy creating my ventures was, what did I lack from my leaders that I would like to avoid if I was to be under myself, if I was to be led by me, and what did previous leaders that I had did really well. So I've adopted that. I've learned a bunch of other things along the way too as well. We talked about things like, remuneration and engagements. I truly do believe that, yes, money's important. It's required to pay your bills and do all that stuff. It's part of the core fundamental reasons why people will leave their house and go work. But in addition to that, people want a sense of belonging. We're really lacking that in today's society. Mm-hmm. People want a sense of belonging. People want to feel that their opinion matters. People want to feel that whatever they're doing has a broader sense of good, that they are making some sort of a difference in what they do. And if they don't feel that, or if one or two of that is missing, they feel out of place. But one of the core fundamental of a leader is you consistently selling the company's vision and mission. That's the core job of a leader, from my opinion. My job is not to increase sales. That's the job of my employees. Their job is to increase sales. My job is to inspire them. My job is to consistently sell the broader vision to them. My job is consistently reminding them that what they're doing matters. So, going back to your question about leader, a good leader should know how to sell the dream, in a nutshell.
Sell the dream. So what were some of the things with some leaders that you had that you saw that you didn't like?
Few of the things I could really remember, because being quite a while, were favoritism within an organization. Now, I did work in a large organization. It's just like, picture back when you're in school. You've got the teachers' pets,
Yeah.
and you've got the ones that, consistently make trouble in class. It's the same kind of setup, even in the workplace, adults. And what I saw in the workplace, in the corporate world, was leaders were not really good in hiding who they favored the most within a team dynamic. They forget that people working for them are not stupid. They can see this play out. So as a leader, you got to be very cautious about that. So that was something I did see happen a lot. And other thing I also did notice was leaders not recognizing people as often as they should. And when they did recognize people, they'll either recognize them in person. While what I've got to understand is people want to be recognized in an open forum, not just in person. Now, if you were to handle a particular project for me and you did a remarkable job, I will say to you that, you know what, Sugira, you did an awesome job, fantastic. And if there's any kind of feedback I need to give you based on that particular project, I'll give you that feedback and project. But I don't stop there. I'll send you an email, have a conversation with you, and I would also publicize that within the intranet of the organization. And if possible, bring it up in a wider team meeting to so recognize you for the hard work you've done. Now, what does that do as an employee? It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like what you're doing counts. It makes you feel recognized. Now, you can't put a dollar figure on that, all right? So when you get an employee that is receiving annual increase, the pay is good, but for some reason they're still looking elsewhere, is because that level of recognition is not there, that sense of belonging is not there within that organization as well.
I think, like you said, to be able to put it in that public forum, like people want to be able to feel special. They want to be able to feel like, yes, I'm doing something. And that's why, like I told you, in the car, I think you showed me at the restaurant in the car, I was, honestly, because I saw the effect of that, because it makes sense. People want to feel a belonging. Why do you feel in today more than ever that belonging or that search of wanting to feel part of something people have? Because it is a true point. Like, there's people who are earning the type of money and great money, but they're looking elsewhere, right? So why do you feel is that need for that belonging, and how can we consistently cultivate that in people to say that you matter?
What I could actually think of is, I think in today's dynamics in Australia, I can't speak for the rest of the world, right? It's a multicultural place. Now, if you're to look back, during our parents' time, my dad did tell me stories on how he grew up. he grew up in a sense of a community, where, everyone knew everyone, right? The next door neighbor could raise your child. You can leave your house knowing that your kids are in good hands. So it took an entire community to raise a child. Now, in today's day and age, it's not the case. We're slowly and surely losing that sense of community. There is no sense of belonging in the broader scheme of things. People leave their home. They're worried in terms of, is someone going to break into their home? People go take their children to a playground. They can't leave them and go do something else because they're worried that, someone could come snatch them or whatever. Most people don't know their next door neighbors. Most people have never even seen their next door neighbors. Most people have never interacted with their neighbors. So people are losing that sense of community. Now, when you provide that kind of space that people are yearning for, now people may not say they want it, but we're creatures that want to feel a sense of belonging. We're naturally wired that way. We want to be a part of some sort of part of a tribe. We want to be part of a community. That's why, when you've got this gym membership or this membership, the membership makes you feel like you belong somewhere, right? So when you get an employer that creates that kind of space for people to feel like they belong, it kind of creates and give them that thing that most people are already lacking at the moment. So it's something I would say most leaders, and you don't really need to own a business to do this. Anyone can do it. Being a community advisor could even be an entire business of its own. You could be that guy or girl that would say, okay, you know what, I want to start up, actually just start up something amazing right now. You could literally start up a community business. What is it? Like, let's look for people. What are you into? Okay, I like pottery. I like walking the dogs. I like painting. I like scuba diving. I like create a community around those kind of like-minded kind of people. I'm a high-ticket salesperson. Create a community around that. You can have your own people. Have your own community. That's a business of its own. It's literally that simple. I should look into that.
Yeah, like I just thought, I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, I can create a podcast community, podcast hosts, or yeah, that's a great idea.
Like the podcast we're doing, it's most typically, like, you get most podcasts which could be like a one-on-one or whatever, and things like, why? Let's move beyond that. Why don't we get a bunch of different-minded people, if you can get them all in the same room or in an outdoor space, and let's talk. We'll share different variety of experiences and things like that, because there are things that I don't know and things I know you don't know. And when you're able to bring people together, that's a community in a way. So you could be that kind of podcast kind of guy that would revolutionize this space and take it to another level, rather than the typical one-on-one traditional kind of way podcast has been described or deemed to be.
And let's take it even a further level. Let's look at when we went to your presentation in the car, right? So it's like being able to have that, like you said, that revolutionary thinking. We shot a podcast in the car. I don't think I've seen that here in Australia or anywhere else. I don't know. Maybe there probably has. But, like that type of thinking, like you're saying, is breaking the mold. So what's like one of the hardest things about leadership? Like, what's a huge challenge that you're still yearning to develop and overcome at the moment?
Hey, I know you're enjoying this video. For any inquiries and mentorship opportunity, which I would be really looking forward to working with you, in this description below, you can get all my details, and I look forward to working with you soon. People. Because when you're leading people, right? People, like, what could work for you doesn't generally mean it would work for the other person,
Yeah.
right? So as a leader, you need to know the people at their core that you're leading. It's not a specific, yes, there are typical generic approach that you could take as a leader, but you have to tailor it to that particular individual. And in addition to as well, the space I work in, there's high ego people too as well.
Why?
Well, it's a sales space, and you got to have that sense of confidence in yourself. Now, you can't have the, how would I call it, the skills of persuasion, because a good salesperson has to have the skills on how to persuade someone to see things that they can't see, and pointing out to them that this stuff is something you need, right?
Urgently.
Right? And creating that sense of urgency, as you said. Now, for people to have that kind of sense of skill, these are people that are confident in themselves. I don't use the word arrogance, whatever. They've got a sense of confidence in themselves. They take pride in themselves. Now, when you're dealing with this type of high type of caliber of people, there's a different kind of approach you take to as well. And the way most of them are monetary, very incentive, like, driven. They're all about, I give this particular results. This is what my expectations are, right, as well. And in addition to that, how do you keep each of those people motivated? How do you keep them hungry to keep going for more? Could it mean, giving them the flexibility to be able to work from home or work remotely certain times? Could it mean, going out for lunches here and there? Could it mean that not micromanaging them and letting them be? It's some people want to be micromanaged. Some people want to be micromanaged, right? Why some people don't want to be micromanaged? And on the other hand, some people want a sense of accountability, knowing that, there's this person that would always check on me to see how am I tracking on a weekly or fortnightly basis, right? So, and some people would go, you know what? As long as I'm getting my bonuses and I'm getting my KPI and you pay me, I've got no problem. So, as a leader, you just got to kind of work out what's important to that person. And some people are more like, flexibility. If you give me the flexibility to be able to go pick up my kids after school and things like that, I'll do whatever it takes during the time I'm in the office. So managing people, I would say, is one of the greatest challenge as a leader. And what most people don't talk about when you're a leader is, as a leader, you're not getting any motivation from anyone. Who motivates the leader, right? So a lot of leaders that I know are dying internally. They've got these, how would I call it, two lives or two-face that they live in, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all humans at the end of the day. You as a leader, myself as a leader, you can only give. If no one is pouring back into you, that's when you start hearing things like burnouts or, losing momentum and things like that. So as a leader also needs to take out the time to take care of themselves. Find someone else that can pour into you. Someone else that would motivate you. Someone else that will hold you accountable. I remember I told you I do have mentors too as well. Every leader is crucial and paramount that they should have a mentor as well, to keep them accountable, motivate them, and give them the courage to know that they can keep going.
Wow. So what are some other ways that you take care of yourself, or even on the personal development part, but just in general, take care of yourself so you're at your best every day?
Peace. I personally, I'm an introvert. The best possible way I take care of myself is I like my own quiet space. I'm not really big into meditation and all that stuff, deep breath and all that stuff. Like, bottom line, I am a Nigerian, right? But I do like my space. Having the opportunity to be by myself, listen to myself think. And I give that to myself every morning in a way. I wake up very early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. I like my quiet walks. It's kind of my own way of meditation in a way. When the world is at peace, it's like everything is still, people still sleeping. Those are my favorite time of the day. I get to walk and I get to meditate and I get to apply the sense of gratitude. So part of the way I take care of myself is, yes, you keeping fit, the normal physical aspect of things, keeping fit, eating good and things like that. But my peace plays a very, very big part of me taking care of myself. So I purposely remove myself from toxic environment, toxic people, negative people. I stay away from them. It's like I'm allergic to them. I literally stay away from it. The only time I only want to deal with someone that is toxic or negative if that person is working with me. And if they still stay at that vibration, they won't be working with me for a long period of time.
So what do you do if that's in your family?
That's a really good question you did ask. I'm from a very large family, six siblings. I don't get along with all my brothers and sisters. I'm not saying they're toxic, but it doesn't mean that because we are family means I'm indebted to you. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They feel that they're indebted to their family. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying get rid of your family, no. If your family or anyone is toxic, they're not adding to you, they're not improving you as a human being, maybe you want to spend less time with that person. Because the old saying of, if you hang around 4 negative person, eventually you're going to be the 5th one. It's been studied. It's not something that's been made up. So you got to decide, what kind of person do I want to be? And once you've worked that out, then it's not even that you stay away from them. They will gradually
distance
themselves.
Yeah.
It kind of happens. It's for example, when I finish uni and all that stuff, like my friends will invite me, let's go out for drinks and things like that. Most times I would say no. After a while, they stop inviting me.
Yeah.
After hearing me saying no, after a while, years gone past, I haven't heard from certain ones from them. It naturally just happens that way. It's one of those things that, when you're walking with someone on the streets, something happens that people don't even talk about. You either that person start walking at your pace, or you start walking at that person's pace. But something that happens right there and then, either one submits to that person's pace, or vice versa.
It's actually true when you're walking, yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing with our life. the people you hang around with would play a big part, a big impact to the person you become. So yes, so I'm really really cautious about that. I'm really really mindful in terms of the people I'm with, what I not just even only the people I'm with, what I listen to, the music I listen to. I definitely don't listen to the news. I definitely don't listen to the news. Now, the only reason why I've got TV in my home is for my little ones. If I had no kids, I will not have TV in my home. I hardly watch TV, to be honest. Right? So, because unconsciously listening to the news or listening to certain type of vibration, you're letting garbage into your mind, which internally shapes the person you become as well.
And I've literally seen that, like, especially with the news. And sometimes, like, even just, I'm even so cautious of that. I could be washing dishes. Someone's watching the news. And, like, I'll just go into these moments and I'll, like, everything they're talking about is negative. Everything they talk about is negative, negative, negative. So it's just like, it's so true where when you're on that path and that journey, you're so attentive of everything. What comes in your ears, you either turn it on or off quickly. So I think it's a very powerful point. So when we talk about leadership, what's it like hiring? Because how do you know if this is the right person, right? And I'm going to say this because I remember what it was like when I was looking for jobs. I wasn't the best worker, I'm not going to lie, and I don't say that proudly, but, I was obviously just doing it for money. The resume thing, you just make that up. I used to have the best resume. The references, you kind of can make that up too. So how do you, as a leader, and I'm finding it now when in terms of hiring as well. So I didn't want to hire the person like I was, I'll be honest, So how do you handle hiring? How do you know, or how do you have that intuition? Because that references and the resume thing, is there more than that?
Right. Well, it depends on the position too as well.
Okay.
It really does depend on the position. But in this particular scenario, let's assume some sort of a management position where they have to deal with multiple tasks and things like that. Yes, based on our industry, you've got a license requirement, so they have to meet some sort of educational qualification and hold the right licenses and police checks and things like that. So assuming all that passes, the main thing I'm looking at is how well does this person deal with disputes.
So is that in terms of your questioning when you ask them? Because you're not going to know that until you hire them.
It's part of the question in terms of when I do ask them how well do they deal with disputes, right? Again, depends on the position. I'm not going to be too worried about that if I'm hiring for an admin position or a data entry position, or it really does depend. And depending on how they answer that and how they carry themselves during the interview. And listen, some people really are really good with interview, then when it comes to the actual work, it's totally different. But part of the entire process is my gut feeling. I listen to my intuition. Most times, the universe will raise some certain red flag at a particular person. Something will prompt you. And most times, most managers or most leaders or most employers, maybe either because they're desperate, they want to fill that position, they ignore the red flag. And I've done that myself too, Swa, and most of the time, it always come back and bite me. So I do have my generic questions that I do ask, and just getting them to play out some certain type of scenario. But the bottom line, it also goes based on my gut feeling too as well. Certain things will trigger certain type of vibrations too as well that I go with. But yeah, I would say mostly gut feelings and how well do they handle themselves in a high pressure situation.
In adversity.
Hey, I know you're enjoying this video. For any inquiries and mentorship opportunity, which I would be really looking forward to working with you, in this description below, you can get all my details, and I look forward to working with you soon.
Okay, and also what you said about red flags, I think like why this conversation is so important because it applies in everything. Like, you know, it applies in the workplace, at home, you know, being able to follow your intuition. It's the same way as in a relationship with a girl or vice versa. You'll see red flags in someone, but maybe you choose to ignore that for other reasons, and that comes and bites you on later on. So how important do you say is intuition in your general life, and how do you use your intuition? How do you know to be able to trust your intuition?
I think you get better at it once you get to a certain level of awareness, and doing it multiple times. You get better with it with time. You know, I've had the privilege to hire when I also worked with a corporation. I've hired more than 50 times, fired more than 50 times, vice versa in my ventures at the moment too as well. And the more I do it, the better I get. Sometimes do I get it wrong? Yes, of course. I do get it wrong sometimes, but the more you do things, the better you get at it. So it's a matter of time, right? It's just like when you're to bring a deal to me, you know, let's say a real estate deal or finance deal, whatever kind of deal. Before, you know, analyzing or assessing a deal could take me 1 hour, then it got to 30 minutes, then it got to 10 minutes. Now I could look at a deal within 5 minutes, I'll tell you if this is a deal or not. I've done it so many times, I know. So that's, you literally, you just have to go through the process. You literally get better at it.
Okay, cool. And just before we end off, you know, we've seen your previous YouTube videos, you know, the podcast in the car, and being able to put your brand out there. What's your vision? Like, what do you see yourself doing? Where are you going? Like, what's in your imagination at the moment?
I'm always very wary in terms of talking about in details. Where we're gonna go, or where, you know, what the actual goal is. The vision is definitely, I do not want to be where I am today in 5 years time. I want to be somewhere greater, somewhere bigger. Part of the project we're currently working on is I'm really enjoying this mentorship coaching approach that I'm currently taking. So the long-term goal would be focusing more on that aspect of things and really creating the next version of leaders to come, and having that platform where they can go to tap experience and knowledge from. That's basically the next stage for me, I would say, at the same time while I'm growing the other ventures as well. So I'll say that's the goal, and multiple other. There's so much stuff I want to do with very, very minimum amount of time to do them, but there's a lot that needs to be done.
And I think it's so vital for, you know, as you have this platform as a thought leader and a mentor, you know, for people to go in and they can consume your content. They can go in and learn so much about you and your experiences, even before speaking with you or meeting you in person. They can really learn who is Collins and how can this person help me in my vision and where I'm going, you know. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. It's good to get some notes, and I think again all the people who are watching this will take so much value in it. All starts from within, right? If you're able to lead and lead yourself basically, right, then, you know, there's a huge follow effect on that.
Absolutely. And just to, you know, wrap things up, if I'm to leave one thing with the viewers and yourself, would be, I'm very big on manifestation and, you know, visualization, and really seeing what the next step is, right? Really seeing, envisioning where you want to go. You know, as a leader, your mind is your greatest ally, right? Now, picture it this way. You've got your mind, you know, there's multiple diagrams out there on the internet, and when you talk about the mind, they'll give you a shape of the brain or whatever. But I don't know what the mind looks like, the shape of the mind. Now, think about it. For those of you that have been to an exclusive restaurant or you go into a nightclub or whatever, there's a bouncer out there that checks ID before you walk in to make sure that you're legally allowed to go into the premises. Now, picture your mind as the premises. You, as a person, need to have a 24-hour security guard at the entrance of your mind that screens everything before they come in and go, should I allow this in or should I kick it out and say you're not allowed in? You must do that as a leader. You must do that as a human being, I would say, for you to be the better version that you're called to be. Because if you don't do that, the world will just dump everything in you and your mind will just be a dumping ground. That's not what you want. So if you're saying, I want to be a leader, but you are allowing things that are negative come into your mind, well, we all know how that's going to end up, right? So I would say, picture your mind, have a 24-hour security guard at the front of your mind that screens everything that comes in. Nothing is too little. Everything matters. Like the music, the clothes, the books, everything matters. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you everything matters. Everything is interconnected. So I would say that's the one last bit I would like to leave everyone with. Picture it that way. Think about it. Be cautious, be aware, and you'll be surprised how far you're going to go as a person.
I like the bodyguard analogy. That's a good analogy. And even like the bodyguard analogy of even certain thoughts, right? Like, oh, will I be able to, make my expenses or whatever it is, bodyguarding, saying, yo, reject that. You're abundant, right? Absolutely. So even it comes down to even the thoughts that are, because we have so many thoughts, they happen to us. We don't even have control of them.
Absolutely.
You get a thought, you're like, well, where'd that come from,
Absolutely.
So that bodyguard.
Absolutely. If I'm to tell you right now that, you know what, you can make $1 tomorrow, would you say, nah, I don't think I can make $1 tomorrow? You would believe that, right? Yes?
Yeah.
You would, right? Yeah. What if I'm saying, listen, you're going to make 100,000 tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right? But what's the difference between $1 and 100,000? It's just your state of mind.
And it's the same energy you're consuming to think that you can get that dollar. It's the same energy.
It's the same energy. It's just our state of belief. And once we start understanding that to the core, it's not just talking about, but truly understanding it, things start changing dramatically. Now, you don't think about the breaths you're taking in and out, inhaling and exhaling. You're just doing it effortlessly. Think about that in the sense of abundance and money coming to you effortlessly. It can be the same way you're taking breath in and out. But we can't fathom that. We can't believe that. That's why it definitely kind of, manifests itself. Right? So we got to start. The biggest work is the mind. It's your greatest ally. The mind would accept anything you give it. The mind would literally accept anything you give it. If you were to tell your mind, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, you tell your mind long enough and you start believing that, your mind and your vibration will start gradually gravitating you to become that billionaire that you're meant to be. Your mind doesn't know the difference between a lie and a truth. So start working on your mind. Forget about what you're capable enough or what the limitation is. Forget about what the universe or the society believe. Think, that word, that's, one of my pet 8 word I hate hearing is that not realistic.
Yeah.
What do you mean that's not realistic? Whose reality are we living here? Yours or mine? Whose reality? It's my reality.
That's a
so
good point.
that statement, that's not realistic. If you have people that are saying that a lot to you, you're in the wrong crowd. No wealthy person will say to you that's not realistic. Truly wealthy people, because there could be some people that have some millions of dollars, doesn't really mean they're wealthy. I mean, true wealth in the mind. Most wealthy people, when you say your dreams, I would most likely say to you, that's not big enough. Why should I say to you that's not realistic? Whose reality are we living in? You're to turn around to me and say, Collins, I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow. I'm like, mate, of course you can. You can do it. You turn around to me and say, Collins, I'm running for prime minister tomorrow. I'm like, mate, where do I go to go vote for you? You should have become a prime minister freaking last month. It's really up to you. I always say this. The only reason why I don't own Australia is because I actually don't believe I can own Australia. That's the truth. If I can convince my mind to truly believe that I can own Australia, a matter of time I will own Australia. But I have to believe that first, right? I truly believe it. It's not just saying, oh, I believe it. No, truly believe it. It becomes night and day, like you can feel it, you can smell it, you can touch it.
And just the last point as well, what are your thoughts also that word arrogant? Because you see, when I was younger, you'd hear that word, right? Like, oh, don't be arrogant, or, you know. But then as I started to get older, I started, wait a minute, like, I should talk proudly about myself. How can you tell me how to pray, right? If I believe that I can do what I want and I'm open and confident enough to speak it. So what are your thoughts on that word of arrogant?
I think in today's society, people are very... Well, look at the Australian culture, for example, right? Australian culture is very different from the American culture, right? Like, you know, the average Australian are very... How would I put it? They're very... timid
I get
in a
what
way.
you're saying, yeah.
They're not... because again, it comes down to the community. Australia's a community as well. It's the your environment, your culture, right? And this is where you also got to be mindful too as well, because based on what I've realized in Australia, people downplay themselves, their success, their achievements, because they don't want to come across arrogance, as she said. But based on the people that I've seen, that I've been told that are arrogant, are actually pleasant people I've come across. It's just that the people they were speaking to were the wrong people that don't feel comfortable with that person's self of comfortability in themselves as a human being, in their sense of pride as a human being. Because if you take pride in yourself, you truly love yourself, and you're grateful for what you've achieved and what God has given to yourself, you can't help yourself but to come across arrogance to a bunch of people, because it just illuminates out of you. It just permeates itself out of you. You can't help it. You're smiling. You're in the right vibration. You're optimistic. You're positive. You're the kind of guy with the mindset of, you know, it's not half empty, full. Like, it's just that optimistic point of view, which could come across a different way for a large percentage of other people that don't view things that certain way. So I would say, you know, I don't generally think people are arrogant, or I don't generally believe in that word arrogant. Yes, there could be certain instant that someone could come across arrogant. For example, you know, what sort of example can I give? You know, let's say, that's my car. What kind of car do you have? And, you know, arrogance could be putting someone else down to put yourself in a higher, elevate yourself in a higher position. That could be arrogant or that could be rude, whichever way. But if you're being grateful for what you are, being optimistic for what your future looks like, putting yourself in a state of awareness of abundance, being very cautious in terms of what you say, because for example, if I'm to say to you, Sugira, like, I want to start up this business venture, and do you want to come in on it and bring in 100,000? Even if you don't have the $100,000 cash, you don't want to say you don't have the $100,000 cash, right? Why you don't want to say you don't have it is because the truth be told is you do have the 100,000, but you just don't know you have it because we are all born with abundance. We all have it. We just don't know where it is, right? And the reason why you don't want to speak negative thoughts from your own mouth is because the tongue has its own power of its own. The only thing that should be coming out of your mouth should be positive things about yourself. So I never say I'm broke. I never say I'm sick. I never say, I can't afford that. All I say is how can I afford that? How can I achieve this? How? But I never use the word I can't. Even when I'm sick, I never use the word I'm sick, because when I say I'm sick, guess what? I am casting a spell onto myself. You can see me sneezing and everything, I'm like, oh man, I'm all right. I'm good. I'm going through a certain process right now. And, I'm good. Because I truly do believe if I am from the Creator, technically I am born perfect. Now, when I say what I've just said now, I'm born perfect. That could be deemed as arrogance. I purposely said that.
People will say,
So that could be deemed as arrogance. Now, this is me understanding and recognizing myself as greater than what society wants me to think of myself. I refuse. It's me saying I refuse to be average. Some people go, oh, what's wrong with being average? 95% of the Australian population are average. You should be lucky that, you're even average. No, I refuse to be even associated with average. Why should anyone choose average if they could be great? Why? All right, so understanding and recognizing there's one thing that the society wants to do and wants you to, how the society wants you to act. It's all about you falling in line, I guess. Then what you believe in yourself as well. So you don't have to be average. You don't have to buy into the what society is saying, and you just go live your greatness.
And when you truly think about your identity, you were made in the image of God, right? And the way you said it, you were born perfect. You were made in the image of God. There is nothing impossible to God, right?
Yeah, if there's a piece of God in me and there's a piece of God in you, we are perfectly created.
Perfectly.
The body has its own way of healing itself if given the opportunity to do that. It's done perfectly. It's just we basically pollute the body. We destroy the body. We're consistently on a daily basis destroying our perfection, right? So once you start understanding that, you start recognizing that, you just can't help to keep singing the praise of how perfect you've been created and acting that particular way and demanding that people treat you as the person you see yourself to be, right? And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Cool. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
No worries.